saw my design on the cover of Design Weekly magazine at a newsstand in downtown Chicago on a freezing January morning. The cover featured a sleek, modern skyscraper with organic curves and a revolutionary glass facade that seemed to breathe with the city skyline. I stopped dead in my tracks, my coffee nearly slipping from my hand. That building was mine. I had spent 6 months designing every detail, every angle, every innovative structural element. But the name beneath the image was not mine. It read, Revolutionary Design by acclaimed architect Helena Crane. My mentor, my boss, the woman I had trusted completely, had stolen my work and claimed it as her own. The article inside praised her genius, her vision, her ability to push architectural boundaries. There was not a single mention of me, Isla Vaughn, the junior architect who had poured her soul into that design. I stood there on that frozen sidewalk, rage and disbelief flooding through me, and I made a decision. Helena Crane had declared war, and I was going to finish it. I had joined Crane Architecture Studio 3 years earlier, fresh out of graduate school at the University of Illinois. Helena Crane was a legend in the industry, a pioneering architect known for her bold designs and her ability to win impossible projects. Getting hired by her firm felt like winning the lottery. I was one of only 5 junior architects selected from over 300 applicants. The job was demanding, the hours brutal, but I loved it. I worked under Helena directly, assisting on major projects and learning everything I could. She was brilliant, demanding and charismatic. She pushed me harder than anyone ever had, critiquing my work until it was flawless. I thought she was investing in me, grooming me to become a great architect. I thought she saw potential in me. Looking back, I realized she saw something else. She saw someone she could exploit. Someone young, hungry, and too naive to see what was happening until it was too late. The stolen design was for the Thornhill Tower, a luxury residential building in downtown Chicago. The client, a developer named Preston Caldwell, had hired Helena's firm to create something iconic, something that would redefine the city's skyline. Helena assigned the project to me, telling me it was a chance to prove myself. You have the vision for this, Isla, she said, her eyes sharp and assessing. Show me what you can do. I worked day and night for 6 months, sketching, modeling, and refining. I created a design that combined sustainability with elegance, using a unique glass layering technique that adjusted to light and temperature. The building would be energy efficient, visually stunning, and structurally innovative. When I presented it to Helena, she stared at the renderings for a long time. Then she smiled. This is extraordinary, Isla, she said. Truly groundbreaking. I felt a rush of pride. 2 weeks later, she presented my design to Preston Caldwell as her own. I was not invited to the meeting. I did not even know it had happened until I saw the magazine cover. I confronted Helena the day after I saw the magazine. I walked into her office without knocking, the magazine clutched in my hand. She looked up from her desk, her expression calm and unbothered. Isla, she said, gesturing to a chair. Sit down. I stayed standing. You stole my design, I said, my voice shaking with anger. The Thornhill Tower was my project. I created every part of it and you put your name on it. Helena leaned back in her chair, her face unreadable. You work for me, Isla. Everything you create under this roof belongs to Crane Architecture Studio. That means it belongs to me. That is how this industry works. I shook my head. No, that is not how it works. You took credit for my ideas. You erased me completely. She stood up, her voice turning cold. You are a junior architect with 3 years of experience. No one wants to hear from you. They want to hear from me. I gave you an opportunity to work on a major project, and you should be grateful. Now get back to work before I decide you are not a good fit here anymore. I left her office, humiliated and powerless. But I was not broken. I was planning. I spent the next week gathering evidence. I had kept everything, every sketch, every email, every iteration of the Thornhill Tower design. I had time-stamped files on my computer, handwritten notes in my sketchbooks, and emails where I had sent Helena progress updates. I documented everything, organizing it into a folder on my personal cloud drive. Then I reached out to someone I trusted, my former professor from graduate school, Dr. Otto Reinhardt. He was a respected architect and academic who had always encouraged my work. I sent him an email explaining what had happened and asking for advice. He replied within hours, asking me to meet him for lunch. We met at a quiet restaurant near the university. I showed him the magazine cover, then pulled out my laptop and walked him through the evidence. His expression darkened as he reviewed the files. "This is intellectual theft, Isla," he said. "Helena knows better. She is exploiting you because she thinks you will not fight back." "What can I do?" I asked. "I am nobody. She is Helena Crane." He looked at me seriously. "You are not nobody. You are talented and you have proof. But taking her on directly will be difficult. You need a strategy." Dr. Reinhardt introduced me to an intellectual property attorney named Simone Garrett. She was sharp, no nonsense, and specialized in cases involving creative theft. We met at her office downtown and I laid out everything I had. She reviewed the evidence carefully, taking notes and asking detailed questions. "You have a strong case," she said finally. "The timestamps, the emails, the documented process, all of it supports your claim. But I need to be honest with you. Suing Helena Crane will be expensive, time-consuming and brutal. She has resources and connections. She will fight back hard." "I know," I said. "But I cannot let her get away with this." Simone nodded. "Then we move forward. But you need to understand something. Winning in court is only part of the battle. You also need to rebuild your reputation and your career. Helena will try to destroy you professionally. You need to be ready for that." I met her eyes. "I am ready." We filed the lawsuit 2 weeks later. The complaint accused Helena Crane of intellectual property theft and sought damages and public acknowledgement of my authorship. The moment the papers were served, my life became a war zone. Helena's response was swift and vicious. Within days, I was fired from Crane Architecture Studio. The official reason was poor performance and unprofessional conduct. She sent an email to the entire firm, stating that I had been terminated for violating company policy and attempting to undermine the firm's reputation. It was a lie, but it did not matter. The architecture community in Chicago was small, and word spread quickly. Other firms stopped returning my calls. Job applications went unanswered. Former colleagues avoided me. Helena had branded me as a troublemaker, and no one wanted to take a risk on me. I drained my savings to pay legal fees and rent. I moved to a cheaper apartment, sold my furniture, and lived on ramen and hope. There were nights I sat on the floor of my empty apartment and wondered if I had made a terrible mistake. But every time doubt crept in, I looked at my design, the one Helena had stolen, and I remembered why I was fighting. This was not just about me. It was about every young architect who had been exploited and silenced. The lawsuit moved slowly. Depositions were taken, evidence was reviewed, and legal motions were filed. Helena's legal team tried every tactic to delay and discredit me. They argued that I was a disgruntled former employee making false claims. They claimed my work was derivative and that Helena had made significant contributions. They painted me as ungrateful and opportunistic. But Simone was relentless. She presented my documented design process, the time-stamped files, and expert testimony from Dr. Reinhardt, who analyzed the work and confirmed my authorship. She showed that Helena had not contributed a single original element to the Thornhill Tower design. Slowly, the case began to shift in my favor. Then, something unexpected happened. I received an anonymous email. The subject line read, "You are not the only one." Inside was a message from someone who claimed to be a former employee of Crane Architecture Studio. They said Helena had stolen designs from other junior architects over the years, and that they had evidence. They offered to share it if I promised to keep their identity confidential. I forwarded the email to Simone immediately. The anonymous source sent us files documenting 3 other cases where Helena had taken credit for junior architects' work. The evidence was damning: emails, sketches, and testimonies from people who had been too afraid to speak up. Simone contacted them privately, and two agreed to provide sworn affidavits for my case. Their stories were heartbreakingly similar to mine. They had trusted Helena, worked tirelessly on projects, and watched as she claimed their ideas as her own. When they confronted her, they were silenced, fired, or blacklisted. One of them, a man named Callum Drake, had left the industry entirely after Helena destroyed his reputation. He now worked as a contractor, his dreams of becoming an architect crushed. The other, a woman named Petra Lang, had moved to another city and rebuilt her career under a cloud of doubt. Their willingness to come forward changed everything. This was no longer just my fight. It was a pattern of abuse, and the legal implications were serious. Simone filed an amended complaint, adding the new evidence and requesting a broader investigation into Helena's practices. The media began to pay attention. A reporter from the Chicago Tribune reached out, asking for an interview. Simone advised me to be cautious, but I agreed to speak. The article was published in March, titled "Rising Architect Accuses Industry Icon of Stealing Ideas." It detailed my lawsuit, the evidence, and the stories of Callum and Petra. The response was immediate and polarizing. Some people supported me, calling Helena a predator who had exploited young talent for years. Others defended her, saying I was seeking fame by tearing down a successful woman. Online comments were brutal. I was called a liar, a fraud, and worse. But I also received messages of support from architects around the country, people who had experienced similar exploitation. The story spread beyond Chicago. Architecture blogs picked it up. Design podcasts discussed it. Industry organizations began asking questions about ethical standards and mentorship practices. Helena released a statement denying all allegations and calling the lawsuit a baseless attack on her reputation. But the damage was done. Her credibility was cracking. In April, Preston Caldwell, the developer who had commissioned the Thornhill Tower, reached out to me directly. His assistant called and asked if I would meet with him. I was nervous but agreed. We met at his office, a sleek high-rise overlooking Lake Michigan. Preston was a sharp, no-nonsense businessman in his 50s. He got straight to the point. "I saw the article," he said, "and I have reviewed the evidence your lawyer provided. If what you are saying is true, Helena lied to me." I looked him in the eye. "It is true. Every word." He leaned back in his chair, his expression grim. "I hired Helena because I trusted her reputation. If she stole your design, I want to make it right. But I need you to prove it beyond any doubt." I pulled out my laptop and walked him through the entire design process. I showed him my original sketches, the iterations, the technical specifications, and the emails documenting my work. I explained the innovations I had developed and how they addressed his specific needs. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. "This is your work," he said. "No question." "What do you want, Mr. Caldwell?" I asked. He smiled slightly. "I want to hire you to complete the project. And I want Helena Crane off of it." Preston Caldwell terminated his contract with Crane Architecture Studio and hired me as the lead architect for the Thornhill Tower. It was a monumental moment, validation that my work mattered and that I deserved recognition. But it also meant going to war with Helena in a very public way. The news broke in the industry within hours. Helena was furious. She released a statement accusing Preston of bowing to public pressure and making a reckless decision. She threatened legal action for breach of contract. But Preston had ironclad legal grounds. His contract included clauses about originality and honesty, and Helena had violated both. The lawsuit became even more intense. Helena's lawyers argued that I had stolen the opportunity from her, and that my claims were motivated by jealousy. But the evidence was overwhelming. Simone presented the original files, the affidavits from Callum and Petra, and expert analysis confirming my authorship. The judge reviewed everything carefully. In June, nearly 6 months after I filed the lawsuit, the ruling came down. The judge found in my favor, stating that Helena Crane had knowingly stolen my intellectual property and misrepresented herself as the original creator. She was ordered to pay damages, issue a public apology, and remove her name from any materials related to the Thornhill Tower design. The ruling made national news. Architecture magazines ran features about the case. Industry organizations issued statements about the importance of protecting young designers. Helena's reputation, once untouchable, was in ruins. Major clients began distancing themselves from her firm. Projects were cancelled. Partners left. The empire she had built over decades was crumbling. I did not feel triumphant. I felt exhausted, drained by months of fighting and uncertainty. But I also felt something else, a quiet, deep sense of vindication. I had stood up to someone powerful and I had won. The public apology came in the form of a press release issued by Helena's lawyer. It was stiff and formal, acknowledging that I was the original designer of the Thornhill Tower and expressing regret for the confusion. It was not heartfelt, but it was official. More importantly, the Thornhill Tower now bore my name. The design credits were updated. Articles were corrected. My name, Isla Vaughn, was finally attached to the work I had created. It was the recognition I had fought so hard for, and it changed everything. With the lawsuit behind me, I focused on completing the Thornhill Tower. Preston gave me full creative control, trusting me to bring the vision to life. I assembled a small team of architects and engineers, people who believed in the project and respected my leadership. We worked through the summer, refining the design, coordinating with contractors, and solving technical challenges. The building began to take shape, rising from the Chicago skyline exactly as I had imagined it. Seeing it come to life was surreal. Every beam, every panel of glass, every detail was a testament to the work I had done and the fight I had endured. By September, the structure was nearly complete. The glass facade gleamed in the sunlight, its layered panels shifting subtly with the changing light. It was beautiful, innovative, and unmistakably mine. Preston invited me to the topping out ceremony, where the final beam was placed at the top of the building. I stood on the construction site, surrounded by workers and engineers, and watched as the beam was lifted into place. When it settled, the crowd cheered. Preston shook my hand, his grip firm. "You did it, Isla," he said. "This is your legacy." The Thornhill Tower officially opened in November. The event was covered by major media outlets, and the building was hailed as a triumph of modern architecture. Reviewers praised its elegance, sustainability, and innovative design. My name was everywhere. I was invited to speak at conferences, asked to write articles, and approached by clients who wanted me to design their projects. The opportunities that had been ripped away from me during the lawsuit were now flooding back, but this time they were mine. I founded my own firm, Vaughn Design Studio, in December. It was small at first, just me and 2 junior architects, but it was mine. I chose the projects, set the standards, and built a culture of respect and recognition. I promised myself that I would never exploit the people who worked for me the way Helena had exploited me. Every designer on my team would receive credit for their work. Every idea would be valued. In January, exactly 1 year after I had seen the stolen design on the magazine cover, I received an invitation to speak at the National Architecture Conference in New York. The topic was ethics and mentorship in the profession. Standing on that stage in New York, looking out at hundreds of architects, I told my story. I spoke about the excitement of working for Helena Crane, the devastation of seeing my work stolen, and the brutal fight to reclaim it. I talked about Callum and Petra, and the others who had been silenced. I urged the industry to do better, to protect young designers, and to hold leaders accountable. The response was overwhelming. People lined up afterward to thank me, to share their own stories, and to tell me I had given them courage. Several architecture schools invited me to teach workshops on intellectual property and professional ethics. Organizations began implementing new policies to prevent exploitation. My case had sparked a movement, a reckoning within the profession. It was not just about me anymore. It was about changing a broken system. Helena Crane, meanwhile, had disappeared from the public eye. Her firm closed quietly in February. Rumors circulated that she was facing additional lawsuits from former employees. I did not follow the details. I had moved on. She was no longer my concern. In March, I received an unexpected letter in the mail. It was from Helena. The envelope was plain, the handwriting shaky. I almost threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. Opened it. The letter was short, written on plain paper. Isla, it began. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness, and I am not asking for it. I am writing to tell you that you were right. I stole your work, and I stole from others before you. I told myself it was how the industry worked, that I was entitled to take credit because I had built the firm. But that was a lie. I was afraid of becoming irrelevant, of losing my status, and I exploited people who trusted me. You stood up to me when no one else did, and you won. I have lost everything, but you were right to fight. I hope you build something better than I ever did. The letter was unsigned. I read it twice, then folded it and put it away. It was not the apology I had wanted, but it was acknowledgement. Helena had finally admitted the truth, even if only to me. I did not respond. There was nothing left to say. Vaughn Design Studio grew steadily over the next 2 years. We completed residential projects, commercial buildings, and a public library that won a regional design award. My team expanded to 12 people, all talented designers who shared my vision. We worked on projects that mattered, buildings that served communities and pushed creative boundaries. I also became a mentor, not in the way Helena had been, but in a way that honored the potential of young architects. I encouraged my team to take ownership of their ideas, to present their work, and to build their portfolios. I made sure their names appeared on every project they contributed to. In 2027, I was named one of the top emerging architects in the country by Architectural Digest. The feature included a profile of my journey, from the stolen design to the lawsuit to founding my own firm. The article ended with a quote from me. The best revenge is not tearing someone down. It is building something they could never destroy. That quote went viral, shared across social media and cited in articles about professional ethics and resilience. One afternoon in April, I received a call from Preston Caldwell. He had another project, a mixed-use development on the waterfront, and he wanted me to design it. The budget was significant, and the scope was ambitious. It would be the largest project Vaughn Design Studio had ever taken on. I accepted without hesitation. We spent months planning, coordinating with city officials, and refining the design. The project would include residential units, retail space, and a public park, all integrated into a cohesive, sustainable development. It was the kind of project that could define a career, and I was determined to make it extraordinary. During the planning phase, I hired Callum Drake and Petra Lang as consultants. Both had stayed in touch with me after the lawsuit, and I wanted to give them a chance to reclaim their place in the profession. Callum brought expertise in structural engineering, and Petra had a gift for urban planning. Together, we created a design that was innovative, functional, and deeply human. When we presented it to Preston, he was silent for a long moment. Then he smiled. "This is why I hired you, Isla," he said. "You understand what great architecture is supposed to do. It is supposed to serve people, not egos." Construction on the waterfront development began in the fall. It was a massive undertaking, requiring coordination between dozens of contractors, engineers, and city agencies. I was on site almost every day, overseeing the work and solving problems as they arose. It was exhausting, but it was also exhilarating. I was building something that would outlast me, something that would shape the city for generations. During this time, I received an invitation to give a TED Talk. The topic was overcoming professional betrayal and reclaiming your voice. I accepted, and the talk was filmed in front of a live audience in Vancouver. I told my story again, but this time I focused on the lessons I had learned. I talked about the importance of documenting your work, standing up for yourself, and building a support system. I talked about the difference between revenge and justice. Revenge is about tearing someone down, I said. Justice is about making things right. And the most powerful form of justice is creating something so undeniable that no one can ignore you. The talk was posted online and quickly gained traction, amassing over 2 million views in the first month. By 2028, Vaughn Design Studio had become one of the most respected emerging firms in the Midwest. We had a reputation for innovative, ethical work, and clients sought us out specifically because of our values. I was invited to join the board of the American Institute of Architects, where I advocated for policies protecting young designers from exploitation. I also established a scholarship fund for architecture students from underrepresented backgrounds, ensuring that talent, not privilege, determined who got opportunities. The waterfront development was completed in the spring of 2029. The grand opening was a major event, attended by city officials, business leaders, and hundreds of residents. I stood on the newly built public plaza, looking at the buildings I had designed, and I felt a deep sense of pride. This was my legacy, not a stolen design on a magazine cover, but a real, tangible contribution to the world. Preston gave a speech, thanking everyone involved and singling me out for my vision and leadership. The crowd applauded, and I felt the weight of the past few years lift slightly. I had fought, I had won, and I had built something meaningful. One evening in June, I was working late at the studio when I received an email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read, "Thank you." I opened it cautiously. The message was from a young architect named Felix Orozco. He explained that he had been exploited by his boss at a firm in Seattle, who had stolen his design for a major project. He had seen my TED Talk and read about my lawsuit, and it had given him the courage to fight back. He had filed a lawsuit of his own, and he wanted to thank me for showing him it was possible. His email ended with a simple sentence: "You changed my life, and I will never forget it." I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. I had not realized the impact my story would have beyond my own career. Felix was not the first person to reach out. Over the past 2 years, dozens of young designers had contacted me, sharing their own experiences and asking for advice. Some had pursued legal action. Others had left toxic firms and started fresh. All of them had found strength in knowing they were not alone. I thought about Helena Crane sometimes, not with anger, but with a kind of distant curiosity. I wondered if she regretted what she had done, if she understood the damage she had caused. I wondered if she had found peace or if she was still fighting her own demons. But mostly I did not think about her at all. She had taken up enough space in my life, and I had reclaimed it. My focus was on the future, on the projects I wanted to build, the designers I wanted to mentor, and the changes I wanted to see in the profession. In September, I was invited to speak at my alma mater, the University of Illinois. The auditorium was packed with students, their faces eager and hopeful. I looked out at them and saw myself at their age, full of dreams and ambition. I told them about the Thornhill Tower, about the betrayal, and about the fight. But I also told them about the victories, the buildings I had designed, the firm I had built, and the community I had found. "Your ideas are your power," I said. "Protect them, document them, and never let anyone convince you that your voice does not matter." In December, Vaughn Design Studio celebrated its 5th anniversary. We had grown to 20 employees, completed over 30 projects, and won multiple awards. The studio had become everything I had dreamed of, a place where creativity thrived, ideas were respected, and people were valued. We held a party at the office, inviting clients, collaborators, and friends. Dr. Reinhardt came, as did Simone Garrett, Callum, and Petra. We toasted to the past 5 years and to the future ahead. Preston Caldwell pulled me aside during the party. "I want you to know something, Isla," he said. "When I first hired you, I took a risk. You were young, unproven, and fighting a very public battle. But you were the best decision I ever made. You did not just design a building. You showed me what integrity looks like." I thanked him, my voice thick with emotion. That night, as I stood in my studio surrounded by people who believed in me, I realized I had won. Not just the lawsuit, not just the recognition, but something deeper. I had reclaimed my identity, my voice, and my power. It is 2030 now, and I am standing on the rooftop of the Thornhill Tower, looking out at the city of Chicago. The building stands tall and proud, a testament to everything I fought for. My name is etched on a plaque in the lobby, a permanent record of my authorship. Vaughn Design Studio continues to grow, and I am working on projects across the country. But the most important work I do is not designing buildings. It is mentoring the next generation, protecting them from the exploitation I endured, and teaching them that their ideas are valuable. Helena Crane is a footnote in my story now, a cautionary tale about what happens when ego overtakes ethics. But I am not defined by what she took from me. I am defined by what I built in response. My name is Isla Vaughn, and I am not just a survivor. I am a creator, a leader, and a force. I was a protégé who became a nemesis, and then I became something more. I became myself, unapologetically and completely. And that, I have learned, is the greatest victory of all.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoy watching Karma, Payback, come full circle every week, we dive into tales of betrayal and poetic justice. Don't miss the next one. Tap the subscribe button and join the Revenge Squad.